G'day and welcome to another massive edition of the RDFNL Netball Show. Thanks to Ontime Delivery Solutions. My name's Yeendy. I'm joined by Tara Murray from the Star Weekly. We're fully firing again, and after another impressive weekend of RDFNL A-grade netball.
It was. I think I tipped 5 out of 5 this week after my terrible tip in the round before that.
I think everyone struggled on that round.
Or I tipped a few upsets and I didn't get the right upset, so obviously lost the lead in the tipping competition. And my colleague over there at Leader, Tim Michelle, said he should be doing the netball show, so if he keeps leading, I'll take him up on that offer. But it was a good round of netball, and I think, look, there was some close matches, and there was a couple of blowouts, and we're sort of getting a clear indication of where every team sits now. Yeah,
absolutely right. Probably we'll talk about one of the big highlights, but the lowlights of the weekend. The highlights was that Bronwyn Blair played her 200th game for Romsey, a decorated career starting as a 16-year-old, I think. But the low light was the 5 minutes of the game she tore her Achilles, and that's heartbreaking.
Well, that's what I spoke to her pre-game, so there is actually a story in this week's paper, but I didn't realise she had tore her Achilles, so that's disappointing there. She started as a 15-year-old, started playing when her mum was part of the side, so that's disappointing for them, obviously, out there. She's been part of that club for years, the first player to play 200 games for the Redbacks, so she's been part of 4 premierships out there. She's made a lot of friendships as well, so that's pretty disappointing for her. It means that the Redbacks are going to have to try different things, and last time I spoke to their coach Luke, he said they did have a bit of flexibility, and we're starting to see that. Obviously they did pull up a player from B grade on the weekend who is pretty well known in A grade circles, so in that second half Hope Evans stepped onto the court and she shot 21 goals from 25 attempts in her first A grade game for the season, so they do have a bit of depth there, but it is disappointing to see Bron injure herself, and hopefully we'll see her back out there. Probably not this year if it is a torn Achilles, but hopefully next year she'll be back out there. Yeah,
fingers crossed. We wish her all the best on the recovery there, as Romsey did enjoy a solid 16-goal win over a determined Rockbank side who have been incredible this year.
It is. Rockbank was up at halftime, so Rockbank led, and I think obviously it sort of threw the Redbacks around losing Bronwyn Blair so early on, because you had Bronwyn and Chelsea have been their main goalers all season, so they had to sort of work out who was going to go in the goal-in circle there. But the Redbacks sort of threw players around, and they managed to get over the line in the end for quite a convincing win. So they showed in that second half what they can do, and then that's why they are a top 6 side.
Particularly that third term where they outscored the Rams by 10 goals, which is fantastic. A massive game on paper, and it delivered at all levels. It was a close one at quarter time. Before the margin sort of stretched out a little bit. It was Wallen too strong over Diggers Rest by 8 goals.
Yeah, obviously this was an interesting one. We've seen Diggers Rest really play well against those lesser likes, but they haven't been able to beat any of these top sides. They've been competitive in most of these matches. I think I saw them play Rupertswood, and they were in that game until the last quarter. They were in front against Macedon. Here it was only the second quarter was the difference between the sides there. So they're just not quite there, and it's sort of where we've seen Diggers Rest in the last few years. They've always been around the mark of playing finals and that, but they haven't been able to match it with those top sides, and that's what we're sort of seeing again. Yeah,
there was a good feeling around the club at the start of the year that perhaps winning their first final in quite some time was firmly on the cards, but for now for them there's a challenge of making finals. But saying that, Wallen have been exceptional this year. They've been an outstanding side. So for Diggers to sort of get close and be in the hunt is still not a bad outcome.
It is. Wallen is a very good side. We saw they pushed Macedon. They had a draw with Rupertswood, and they've probably been the best 2 sides that the competition's had this season. So Wallen isn't a side to discount, and they've shown they are a top 3 or 4 side. They're a really good. They've got a lot of depth across the board, and they're starting to find all their connections. They are a brand new side, which is what we have to remember as well. So you've got a few VNL players in there who are playing well, and they're starting to find their rhythm.
Macedon taking down Melton Centrals by 25 goals.
Look, I spoke to Randy Pereira after this match, and he said this margin could have been quite easily 40 goals. He said they are struggling at this point. They have struggled all season. They're missing on average 29 goals per game. That hurts. And at the moment, their shooting circle is a little bit mixed, because I think Katie Hepburn's away, and obviously she'd struggled early on. So on the weekend, you had Beck Moorabool for a lot of the game was double teamed by Janelle Birch and Katie Clark, who were named the best 2 players on court, and they're both really, really solid defenders. So while Randy said, yep, they are struggling, they have got players missing, it's been up and down, that he's not ruling out finals. At the moment, they're only a game and a half outside 6th. behind 6. Yes, Diggers Rest has played one less match, but at the moment, Melton Central's has got a lot of games against those lesser-like sides. So if they start getting a few wins where some of the teams that are fighting for top 6 spots are playing each other, it is going to make a difference. Obviously, this week they played Broadford, which is a must-win for Melton Centrals if they are going to keep their season alive.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed they can keep going on there. Another massive game. We had Rupert's Wood taking down Broadford.
Look, this is obviously, you've got one of the top sides and the bottom side. It was always going to be a one-way. I always thought it was going to be a one-way match, and it proved to that be. For Rupert's Wood, I think the key was this. They tried different combinations. I think they used 4 different shooting combinations. You had Matilda Elliott, who come up again and play in A-grade. She's played bits and pieces. I think this is her 3rd or 4th game. So they're blooding those young players. They're trying different things to work out, okay, if something's not working, come finals time, come against one of those top sides, what can we do? This combination works, that combination works. So it was a one-sided one, but I think Rupert's Wood still would have got a lot out of that game.
And Rupert's Wood to be 18 goals up a quarter time, just to really set the scene early.
It is, and they had Lucy Bettina, who's been playing B-grade. She has previously played A-grade. She shot in the first quarter, so they were using one of their B-grade shooters as well. So it wasn't like they were full strength on the court straight away, but that result was to be expected.
The final game, we had Riddle taking down Wedding Heskett by 15 goals, but I'm quite impressed with the outcome of this one for the Hawks, who are young, talented, and probably 12 months ago, this could have been a 40-goal loss, but they're really starting to close the gaps on some of these Premier sides.
Well, I look at both of these sides are pretty young sides. Obviously, Riddle, again, blooded some of their under-19 players because they are going to be missing players in later weeks. You look, Lauren Close and Beck Colwell both started off. So you go that, they were and Riddle was still in front at quarter time. I think for Wood and Heskett, they're getting closer to having their full side back. They've had injuries, they've had players out, and that has hurt them as well. So they do have a very, very talented young side, and probably the one that's impressed me the most out there is Sarah Duff. So I think she can still play under 17s, and she's playing a combination at the moment of the mid-court and and spending time in goals. So she's showing that flexibility as well. She's a gun player, and she's sort of leading the way for the Hawks up there.
Look out for Mackenzie Brown as well, another young talent in the same sort of mould as Sarah Duff, although she would say she's in a mould on her own. She did win the league best and fairest, I think, the under-17s last year. She's been in some good form, and again, just good to see some of these young guns come through, not just at Wood and Heskett, but also through Riddle.
Yeah, and that's it. Both of these clubs are blooding players, and that's what you want to see. Yes, obviously it's good seeing getting VNL players and players of that high standard in, but you want to see these clubs blood the players through, and that they're going to stay here for a long time, because we have seen in the past with some teams, you get players in from the outside, they may not stay long term, and then clubs suffer. But if you're more likely to get the players going through the ranks, you're more likely to see them stay around and then see that success come through.
Spot on there. As we turn our attention to round 9 of the RDFNL A-grade netball competition, and we've got Broadford and Melton Centrals, and as you highlighted earlier, Centrals need to win this one to keep their finals hopes alive.
It is. It's the 2 bottom sides. So who thought we would say at the start of the season that Melton Centrals would be in the bottom 2?
Yeah, I would have been surprised to see Broadford down there, given as well some of the cattle that they recruited to the club, and unfortunately injuries and whatnot has sort of made that very difficult. So we're sort of halfway through the season, and it's sad to see these two sides at the bottom, because they're both very proud clubs and a lot of talent in that team.
It is, and obviously, as you said, this is a must-win for Melton Centrals. If they want to stay in the hunt for finals, they have to win this match. They've had players in and out, they've had shooting issues, so for them it's about making sure they convert the turnovers when they get them, and making sure they're getting those goals. You look down in that circle, they have Beck Moorabool, so they've got one of the best players in the competition. It's about providing assistance to her and making sure they can make the most of their opportunities. Spot
on there. So your tip for this one?
Melton.
Yep. Definitely on the Centrals bandwagon there. Riddle and Rupo, a cracking contest.
This is, as we said in the footy, it's been an interesting one the last few years. It also has been in the netball. These two sides have been up there for a number of years, and there is a spanner thrown in the works this week with VNL. And VNL's an interesting one because you had a couple of teams play on Monday night, a couple play on Wednesday, a couple play on Friday, and then some play on Sunday. So how VNL affects teams is going to be quite interesting, depends on when they've played. Looking at it from Riddle's perspective, Blaze played on Monday night, so most of their players play for Blaze, so that gives you Beck Caldwell, the two closest, Maddie Woolmeyer, they all played their VNL on Monday nights, which means they are possibly likely to be available for full games, which adds to them there. Rupert's Wood, it'll be interesting how their VNL players are and whether they're on restrictions, but they have shown they have got plenty of depth, and they obviously tested that against Broadford. They've brought up players from B grade at times to give them opportunities, so they won't be overawed by this situation. I've still gone Rupert's Wood. you look, obviously their only loss of the season has come against Macedon, and last time they had VNL restrictions, they still came away with a draw against Wallen. So I'm still going to go Rupert's Wood, but I think it'll be a close match.
Yeah, I'll be with you on that one there. Rupert's Wood will be just a tad too strong, and as you say, the depth has been remarkable because they have won premierships in the other divisions over the years, and we're starting to see some of those players make an impact. Rockbank and Macedon, I think the last time these two teams met, Macedon ended up winning by about 30 goals, but I think Rockbank has improved significantly since then.
It is, and Rockbank has taken it up to those top sides. So for them, it's about reducing that gap and being competitive for most of the match. If not, they'd love to get the win, but if they can't get it, at least be competitive. You've got Macedon is another one that is affected by VNL commitments. Looking at it, the Sovereigns do play on Wednesday night, so with them playing on Wednesday night, that means your Janelle Birch and your Chloe Wilson should be available for the whole game on Saturday, which is a big boost for the Cats. The Cats still aren't playing great netball, so they're still yet to have their full side together, but it's about just getting through, and they want to fire on 4 cylinders or 4 or 5 cylinders come finals time. So for them, it's about getting the win. If they drop a game on the way, so be it. It's just about the end product for them. Yeah,
I agree with you on that one there. Last year, they were the team to beat for every round of the season. Then come finals, they bowed out in straight sets. So, and no doubt that list, that group is still together. They'll be aware of that.
They will be, and that's what they've looked to add more depth, and that was one of the things they said about in the off-season, was to add more depth. And previously they've been a side that they've played the whole 7 players for the whole game. Now they're switching players up, they're giving different opportunities, looking at different combinations, so they've got those backup plans come finals time.
Wallen versus Woodend Heskett.
I think 2 of the younger sides in the competitions here. So obviously I'd love to see Woodend take it up to Wallen. I think Wallen will be too strong. They have shown they are going to be one of the top sides. Obviously another side with VNL commitments as well that could play a role there. But I think Woodend, it's about making sure they can be competitive. If they can they'd love to be within 10-15 goals. A win would even be better, but obviously it's just making sure they're competitive and doing the right things.
And probably on the other hand as well, Wallen might be able to really gel together as a unit and win by a big margin too.
Exactly, and they'd be liking to do that. I know obviously some of your other top sides, your Macedons, your Rupert's Woods, they put away these lower sides. So Wallen needs to be looking to do the same thing as well.
And the final game, we've got Diggers and Romsey.
This is interesting because obviously we haven't seen these two sides play each other. They were meant to play each other back in round 1 and that game's been postponed. So, and they're both around the same mark come the ladder. Romsey's obviously just a touch higher, and it's going to be interesting how these two sides go and where they sort of sit. I think this match is vital in the run home to the finals. Obviously they've still got at least another game against each other, and they're two very sides which both have VNL players. They've both shown at times this season they can take it up to some sides, but then struggled at other times.
How do you see this one unfolding?
Look, I think I have to go Romsey.
Yep.
I think Romsey has shown the last few weeks they have been a better time, and they've been able to respond when they needed to. Obviously, they were down against Rockbank. They were challenged by Riddle and got across the line there, so they have showed some form against some good sides.
Yeah, I hope Diggers Rest can be in the contest for at least the sort of 3 quarters, even into the last term, because they're a team that's sort of lacking a little bit of confidence at the moment.
Look, I expect this to be a close match. I think Diggers Rest can take it right up to them. So it's about just taking that next step and getting a win against one of those top sides, which they haven't been able to do. And
it will only be, I think, a few weeks down the track where these two sides will meet again as part of that postponed fixture. But due to the makeup of this year's netball fixture, these two have happened to draw each other a little bit early before they play each other again in about a month's time, I think.
It is, yeah. So it'll be quite interesting. Obviously, they play each other on one of the bye weekends. They've rearranged everything to make sure that works there. So it'll be quite interesting to see how they go now and then compare them in a month's time and see whether there's any difference.
Spot on. Tara, thanks so much for joining us this week, and thanks to Ontime Delivery Solutions for all their ongoing support, and we look forward to seeing everyone next week.
Thanks for having me.